How you doing? I'm Callan and this is Slapped Ham. Today we're looking at some terrifying real-life cases of voodoo curses. So hit that subscribe button and get ready for more creepy content just like this.
The term voodoo typically refers to a variety of religions based at least partially on African traditions and mythology. Some of the more well-known practitioners of voodoo made their homes in the southern United States, specifically Louisiana and into the Caribbean. While there are a variety of complex practices that comprise the religion, most people associate it with one thing: curses. Julia Brown was a well-known voodoo priestess in her day. She made her home in Manchac Swamp in the small town of Frenier, Louisiana. Brown is an excellent example of how voodoo can be a force for good for those who respect it, but a terrifying force of evil for those who take advantage. Frenier was a small town and the closest doctor was miles away in New Orleans. For this reason, most people turned to Brown when they needed medical attention. From childbirth to infections to illnesses, Brown's strange supernatural powers seemed to do the trick. Most people who used her services were cured of their ailments, and word began to spread around the village that Brown was a powerful priestess. She became so well known for her healing that her neighbours began to take her services for granted. They regularly demanded that she attend to them, sometimes even dragging her out of her home. Brown was understandably angered by the townsfolk's behaviour. To get revenge on them, she began making ominous predictions about misfortunes to come. Most of the time, her predictions were correct. The townsfolk were terrified, believing that Brown either had an amazing gift for foresight or was actually causing the tragedies she foretold. On September 28, 1915, Brown's neighbours heard her singing a terrifying song. "One day I'm gonna die and I'm gonna take all of you with me." Shortly afterwards, she died suddenly. The entire town attended her funeral, hoping to appease her spirit. Unfortunately, they were unsuccessful. Just after the funeral, a hurricane tore through the town, leaving only 2 citizens left alive. To this day, skeletons of the dead occasionally resurface in the swamp, and any developers who attempt to build on the land are struck by tragedy. Visitors to the area often experience supernatural events, such as hearing the sound of Brown's ominous final song. In the afternoon of August 30th, 2006, Francoise Mercier said goodbye to her fiancé and 2 children and went to work as a health aide at St. Elizabeth Ann's Healthcare and Rehabilitation Center near Brooklyn, New York. She and her fiancé, France Bordez, had been having difficulties. Both were natives of Haiti and were close with their families. However, Bordez had begun to believe that Mercier's family hated him and were trying to harm him. Bordez loved his children, so Mercier never hesitated to leave the children alone with him while she worked a late shift. Everything seemed normal when she left for work. However, when she called home during her evening break around 8:20 p.m, she was surprised that no one answered the phone. A few hours later, she returned home. When she opened the door, the apartment was quiet. In addition, just inside the front door, she found a jewelry box on the hallway floor containing the wedding ring her fiancé had just purchased her for their upcoming nuptials. Mercier was starting to become concerned, but was certainly not expecting the scene that led her to let out a blood-curdling scream that brought all of her neighbours to her door. She looked around the house for her children, unable to find them. Then the phone rang. On the other end of the line was a police officer, informing her that Bordez had jumped in front of a subway train a few hours prior. Mercier's heart sunk with the phone call, suddenly feeling the instinct to search the bathroom. There, she found the lifeless bodies of her 2 children lying side by side in the bathtub. Bordez had drowned them before taking his own life. Police later found a total of 7 suicide notes, in which Bordez stated that his fiancé's family had been cursing him with voodoo and that he believed death was his only escape. The family denied the claims, but many still blame a voodoo curse for this terrible tragedy. In 2012, Valdano Ritchie of Palm Beach, Florida, believed himself to be the victim of a vicious voodoo attack. According to Valdano, a man named Dennis Donahue had sprayed him with voodoo water, an action that resulted in the loss of his immortal soul. In most voodoo practices, water is used for beneficial reasons. It's typically a form of holy water that can be used to cure pain and even depression. It's also used in rituals to cleanse a space, instruments, or even a person before performing a spell. However, there are a few types of water, such as dead water and war water, used for cursing. It's unclear exactly what type of water Donahue allegedly used against Valdano, but he clearly believed that the curse had robbed him of his soul. He was certain that the only way to get his soul back and save it from the devil was by ending Donahue's life. In December of 2012, he took action against the man who allegedly cursed him. According to 4 witnesses who saw the encounter, Valdano entered Donahue's home and shot him fatally. He also attempted to shoot another man before leaving the house. In a recorded statement, Valdano admitted that he committed the murder because of the voodoo curse. In Valdano's bizarre trial, the jury was tasked with determining whether he was justified in committing the murder because he believed he was saving his soul. They ultimately decided that he had no right to take the other man's life and convicted him of second-degree murder. In Haiti in 2010, voodoo became the focus of a modern-day witch hunt when the country faced a devastating cholera epidemic. By the time the epidemic finally subsided, more than 2,500 Haitians had died from the terrible disease. An additional 121,000 people were treated for symptoms of cholera, with 63,500 being admitted to hospital. One theory about the epidemic suggested the Nepalese peacekeepers from the United Nations had been responsible for the disease. Cholera is rare in Haiti, but much more common in Nepal. However, many citizens found another scapegoat: voodoo. Many Haitians use aspects of voodoo in their daily lives and religious practices. During the cholera epidemic, the finger-pointing took a sinister turn, when close to 50 priests and priestesses were violently lynched by people who believed they had cast curses to bring the epidemic to the nation. The victims were stoned, burned, or dismembered with machetes in the streets of Haiti. Despite numerous pleas from officials to stop the violence, the lynching continued for months. In all likelihood, the spread of the disease can be rightly blamed on the earthquake that devastated much of Haiti in January 2010. Many citizens were without power or proper places to live, so the sanitary conditions were dismal. Officials believe this was the true cause of the rapid spread of the disease. However, this explanation did little to quell the fears of the population, as many believed that voodoo priests and priestesses had called down the hurricane as a way to punish the population for their various sins. Before we get to that #1 spot and look at a terrifying case of voodoo in a very unlikely town in the US, remember to hit that subscribe button and turn on channel notifications. That way you'll be notified about all our latest content. This story comes from a place far away from the usual settings for magic and curses, Westport, Massachusetts. The woman in question had recently lost her mother and sister and brother and was living in the home they had all shared. After the tragic deaths of her family members, she began experiencing bizarre supernatural phenomena, such as objects moving on their own and doors slamming shut. To make matters even more unusual, after her brother's death, she found a bizarre altar in the room that had been his bedroom. The surface had several candles and a small wooden box. Inside the box, she found photographs of her deceased mother and sister, along with a photo of a man she didn't recognize. She also found a doll that resembled a fish with several pins sticking out of it. Her first thought was that it looked like a voodoo doll. There were additional pins and some herbs and oils in the bottom of the box. Everything appeared old and worn, suggesting the brother had been practicing his craft for years. The woman's brother had been a commercial fisherman. She believed that he had learned a form of voodoo on his travels, possibly in Brazil. In Brazil, people practice a form of voodoo called macumba, which features black magic often aimed at getting revenge on family members. The family had experienced quite a lot of drama in the years before the three members passed away. The woman's younger sister had refused to help care for her ailing mother, leaving much of the responsibilities to her brother. Yet, she approached her mother one day and said that her brother was planning to put her in a nursing home, and that if her mother signed the property over to her, she would stop it from happening. The brother was enraged at the betrayal, which could have been the trigger for him to take vengeance on his two female relatives in the form of voodoo. The sister, who eventually inherited the house, turned to a paranormal investigator for help. He eventually removed the box from the house, which caused the paranormal activity to cease and allowed the woman to live in peace.
If you want more historical paranormal cases, then check out that link on the top there. Otherwise, there's a scary playlist there you can binge on for hours. Leave us a comment down below or hit that thumbs up button. And that's it for me. I'll see you all next time.